Welcome back, AP. Oh man! All right, so this is the last flip for this chapter, I guess, or we call it unit or whatever. Industrial Revolution, reforms, and other revolutions, right? So we talked about today the democratic revolution that happened in France. That really wasn't even so much a revolution as it was a reorganization of things. We talked about the June days, the 3 days of, excuse me, the three great days, like everything else, right? So now we got to talk about how that series of reforms and revolution affected other countries like Austria and Prussia. Now, keep in mind, when we were looking at that map, almost every single European country had some type of revolution or revolt actively going on as of 1848. Now, Prussia is going to be the first place we talk about, right? So, no, it's not. Yeah, no, it's not. That's wrong. Anyway, so violent uprising, the June days. We did all this stuff. Did that. Did that. Three glorious days. Did that. I said great days, didn't I? So anyway, got it. Here we go. So the successful reforms of France actually inspired dramatic revolts in places like Austria and Prussia. Notoriously conservative areas. I mean, they were a part of the Holy Alliance, for crying out loud. Now, liberals are going to demand constitutions, suffrage, representative governments, and greater civil liberties, right? Now, Austria Empire, very conservative, home of Metternich, right? Hungarians demanded autonomy and universal suffrage, right? So when I say Austrian Empire, I mean the Hungarians were the ones demanding this autonomy and universal suffrage, right? We talked about Hungary in terms of Rákóczi and when they expelled the last Ottoman Turks out, and the Habsburgs are going to take over, and it's going to become the Austro-Hungarian Empire because they're going to be considered more of a fair slice, but then it turns back into the Austrian Empire, blah, 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 blah. So Hungarians are going to demand autonomy and universal suffrage. However, this guy that was in charge, his name was Francis I, right? He's going to hesitate before taking immediate action. So you never hesitate if you're a monarch, right? So uprisings and revolts by Austrian students and also Hungarians are going to break out in the streets. So ironically enough, Metternich, being the man that he was, that suppressed liberal reform in places like Italy and Spain, is actually going to flee out of fear. And he leaves Vienna, where some of these revolutions or this revolutionary activity is happening. He's going to flee to London, just like Louis Philippe did, right? What an idiot. Now, anyway, unfortunately, poor organization is going to lead to Austrian troops destroying these revolts, right? And a lot of it has to do with organization because of this, right? So poor organization plus the Austrians are crafty, right? So when other ethnic groups like Croats, Serbs, Czechs, and the Germans start demanding autonomy, the problem is that originally, remember, the Hungarians demanded autonomy from Austria first, right? Then all these other groups within their empire are going to start demanding autonomy. Well, the thing about it is they're cultural groups without definite geographical lines to separate them, right? So the thing about it was, geographically, they overlapped. Areas the Croats wanted, overlapped with areas the Serbs wanted, which overlapped with areas the Czechs wanted, and the Slovenians and people like that. So they overlapped, and Austria played them against each other. And they were like, well, the people that are standing in your way aren't us. You got to go down to good terms with the Croats so you can understand where you actually believe that you own now, since you want to defect from us, right? Well, in the disorganization and with these other smaller groups feuding with one another, with Hungary, with themselves, with everybody else, Sophia, the Archduchess, she's a Habsburg, is going to tell the nervous crown of Francis I and be like, hey, get down. Nobody likes you, all right? Anyway, or it's Ferdinand I. I apologize. But then she's going to advocate that the crown abdicate the throne, abdicate, that Francis Joseph comes in. Franz Joseph, as he's most commonly called, right? A lot of people know who this guy is. He was the king of Austria and the emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire during World War I. So we're getting very close to these wars, right? So the armies of the Austrians are going to crush these revolts, and the new King Franz is going to have no intention of letting them go. All right, so the Austrian student revolts were suppressed. The rebellions by the Croats, the Serbs, the Czechs, the Germans was suppressed. The Viennese students were suppressed. He called to also put the original guys that started the whole thing, the Hungarians, put them to bed. Nicholas I, one of his Holy Alliance friends, Nicholas I, the last king, Nicholas Romanov, the last king of Russia, sent troops and it crushed the original riots in Hungary. So conservative is going to get a big W out of Austria, right? So anyway, continuing forward though, Prussians are going to try and do something very similar. The Prussians are going to demand a liberal constitutional monarchy. You're witnessing the slow death of absolutism, right? So all of this stuff is just the seeds of the death of absolutism. Now, it was inspired by France, of course, because theirs was somewhat successful, depending on the way you look at it, right? Well, I mean, now they've got Louis Napoleon in there, and I guess that's a little bit better than nothing. But inspired by France, but Frederick William the Fourth, which is a Hohenzollern, right, said that he would also, remember we talked about Frederick the Great Elector, and then it was Frederick the First, and Frederick the Second, and then Frederick the Third, and then we got Frederick the Fourth, right, said that he would give them a constitutional monarchy. However, he was going to be gearing it towards creating a national German state, right? So you're seeing the seeds of nationalism in Germany. Remember, there is no German country yet, okay? It's just the German Confederation, okay? So at this point, when everything's getting started up, it's just the German Confederation. And the German Confederation includes Prussia, Bavaria, and a bunch of other small principalities along the way, right? So the middle class was very happy with this idea. They were like, all right, the Prussians are giving us a constitutional monarchy. This will bring in a legislative body. We can do with this, right? The poor, though, as always, advocate for socialism instead. So the big thing is, though, the Prussians decide, you know what? Let's hit them when they're confused, okay? So the poor and the middle class are going to begin to feud with one another over these new demands they're demanding from their German state. So the Prussian military came at them when Denmark began to revolt away from the early Prussian Empire, right? So Frederick is going to disband the new legislative branch that he actually created that was set up by the new constitution, and he's going to instead issue a new conservative document that reinstates his divine right to rule. And a very famous phrase that he gave is because he said, I don't want a crown from the gutter, all right? He's saying like the liberal constitution was a crown from the gutter. He wants his old divine right to rule. He wants that absolutism back. So he literally hoodwinked all of the people in Prussia and gave them what they wanted, then waited till they were distracted, and then stripped it right back away again, right? So very, very, very neat thing because these two, excuse me, let me finish up first. Austria and Russia, the Holy Alliance brothers, are going to tell Prussia they need to wind it back a little bit, though, right? So the Prussians were kind of put into check by their original Holy Alliance guys, and they're going to tell them they wanted them to chill out and go back to just being Prussia and back to the German Confederation because they were not down with this whole new German unified country. Probably because they were afraid of the idea of a powerful German state. Now, the Hohenzollerns, though, started trying to create a Germany, and this leader wasn't strong enough to do it, but his son, Wilhelm I, and his great advisor, Otto von Bismarck, are going to be the guys that are going to get done. All right, so here's a really, really cool political cartoon back here that kind of just shows you the political effects of these revolutions, per se, in 1848, and showing you the great conservative victories, okay? So as you can see, this is the French figure, right? Banishing people away and actually just sweeping up all of these poor liberals, right? Here's your Prussian that is like sweeping away all of these Prussian idealists. Here you've got your Austrian fighting off your Hungarian who's fighting off your Serbian, right? So, and then you have over here, Great Britain looking on from afar, right? So very cool political cartoon showing you that, like, granted, not a lot was accomplished in these revolutions of 1848 when it comes to dramatic new shifts of government and ideologies. However, it's the seeds of violence in Europe and the seeds of the ideas leading into World War I. Okay, so as we can see right here, the revolutions weren't as effective as they wanted them to be. But that's kind of the parting note that I'll leave you with now. But that's it. We're done. This chapter is now wrapped up, and we will talk about the big isms tomorrow when we review. We'll go over liberalism, nationalism, socialism, their goals, and then we'll get into the early revolutions in France and how these ideologies are going to come to a head, right? So, good stuff. Very nice job the last few days. So proud of you guys. I think you're going to crush this test when it all comes down the pipes. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Grudge ball tomorrow, all right?